Hey guys, Kate Sparks here. It's so quiet in here. I feel like I should have some kind of music playing like everybody else does in their videos. Okay, just imagine that there's ukulele music, alright? It's like tink 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 tinky blink blink blinky blinky tink tink tinky blinky blink. Alright? Alright. I'm sitting here in my very messy office. I just wrapped up all of the publishing stuff and the Facebook parties and all of that for Into Allurian. But I thought I would take a couple minutes to answer a reader question. I think I know who asked this question, but I'm not 100% sure because I didn't write it down when I saw it, so I'm sorry. The question specifically was, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but it was, how do you deal with criticism and negative feedback? And I think this person said, because it would kill me, or something along those lines. I definitely used to feel that way about criticism. I couldn't take it at all when I started writing. It was really hard for me to ever let somebody see my first draft of Bound or to see any of the short stories that I wrote before that, because I didn't want criticism. All I wanted at that time was for somebody to tell me that it was perfect, that it was wonderful, that I had done a great job, that it was good as it was. That's fine if you're 5 years old and you're showing something to your mom that you made in art class at school. But when you're a grown-up and when you are writing something that you want to publish, criticism is very important, and so being able to deal with it is also very important. Learning to deal with that has been a long process for me. I had a few critique partners as I was going through the process of writing and revising Bound, which was the first novel that I ever finished. It was the first thing that I had ever written that I thought was good enough to be published. Well, I kind of thought it was good enough to be published after I was done the second or third draft, and I was totally wrong. So I'm so glad that I had people around who were willing to tell me that. It was really hard at first to take criticism because I took it personally. I have slowly learned how to separate myself from my work and to accept that critiques that I have asked for before publication are only helping my work be better and stronger. I remind myself that I would rather get this kind of criticism before publication than after, because I'm not the kind of author who goes back and revises books after they're published. I like everything to be as good as it can be, as professional as it can be, as solid as it can be before I start asking for money for it. I know, that's crazy, right? So I get critiques from my critique partners. I hire excellent editors who do content editing for me, so they will rip the story apart right down to its bones if they have to. I guess you'd call him my primary editor. He did the entire Bound trilogy. I had to rewrite the climaxes on all 3 books, with progressively bigger revisions for each book. And that's hard. It hurts to hear that your work's not as good or as ready as you thought it was. But ultimately, for me, the key is remembering that this is necessary, that this is making my work stronger, and that I asked for this. This is what I wanted. I would be disappointed if I had an editor who agreed to do this kind of work and it just came back with a couple of little red marks fixing grammar errors, because that's not what I want. So for some authors, that's fine. I like the editing to be a bit more in-depth, and I find that it does make my work stronger, for me, personally. So that kind of criticism it can be hard to take. My advice for dealing with it, if you're a writer who's in a position where you're getting notes back from a critique partner for the first time, or from a professional editor for the first time, expect the worst, or what you think is the worst. That one editor always manages to surprise me, even if I think I'm expecting the worst already. Remember that the critiques are not a criticism of you as a person. Remember that needing revisions doesn't mean that your story's bad, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad writer. We all have to do this sometimes. And even a story that's already really good often could be great after revisions. So that's something I try to remind myself of. I ask myself, do I want to put out a book that's good enough, or do I want to put out a book that's the best it can be? And the answer is always that I want to put out a book that's the best it can be, because I think I owe that to my readers. So we do the work and we swallow our pride and we accept the critique. That doesn't mean that I accept all critiques. It doesn't mean that I make all of the changes that my editors suggest. I absolutely don't. Try to look at it as an adventure. Try to look at it as a learning experience. I've learned so much from my editors. Like, it's crazy. I'm a far better author than I was when I first wrote Bound. And every lesson I learned from books, I carry to future books, but then there's always more lessons to learn from the next one. It does get easier with time. It gets easier as you accept more critique, as you learn to sort out which ones you want to take and which ones you don't, as you become more confident in yourself as a writer. That doesn't mean that it's easy, necessarily, depending on your personality type, but you do get there. Take it slow. Definitely don't get mad at your critique partners or your editor or take your frustration out on them, because they're doing the best that they can for your story. Unless they're, like, sadistic and they get off on making you cry, in which case you probably need to find new critique partners. So that's the kind of critique that I like. And yeah, I will say that I like that kind of critique. It hurts sometimes, but it's very necessary for my books to be the best they can be, so I am so grateful for it. The other kind of critical response that an author is going to get, and I suspect the one that the person who asked the question is actually asking about, is critical reviews. I was going to say negative reviews, but critical doesn't always equal negative. There are people out there who will give you negative reviews. They will insult you, they will insult your mother, they will insult your ancestors, and any books that your ancestors may or may not have written. You know, the bulk of critical reviews are just that. They're critical. This person doesn't hate you. They're not trying to insult you. They may be trying to insult your book if they really didn't like it, but your book is not you. That's important to remember. So how do I deal with that? The first way I deal with that is to be prepared. I put out the best books that I can. I put out the most professional books that I can, because I do want readers to have the best experience that they can possibly have with my book. So what that means is that when I get critical reviews, they are generally about things like the story or the characters or something else that just didn't click for that person. And that's the key for me to not getting upset by these reviews. Not every book is going to work for every reader. There are books and series out there with massive, rabid fandoms, millions of people who love them, that I completely hated. And that is okay. All that means is that the author had a vision for the story, and they brought that vision to life, and it just wasn't what I needed at the time as a reader. It doesn't mean that it's a bad book. It doesn't mean that they're a bad author, definitely. It just means that people have different tastes and like different things. If you go look up your favorite book on Amazon right now, you will find critical reviews. And probably some negative reviews. That doesn't mean that the book is bad, and that doesn't mean that the people who left those reviews are wrong. It just means that that was their reaction. So one of the things that I remind myself when there are critical reviews of my work is that not everyone is a part of my audience. And I didn't write these books for everyone. The story is what I wanted it to be. The characters are what I wanted them to be. And as long as it's working for more readers than not, I will thank people for their responses. I will thank people for taking time to read and review. But I'm not going to change what I do based on critical reviews. I am so grateful to readers who leave reviews. They actually make a huge difference for a book. But the content of reviews is more for other readers than it is for me. So yeah, to sum up, how do I take criticism? I take the criticism that I've asked for, which means criticism from critique partners, editors, and beta readers, rather than post-publication reviews that may be important and may have thoughts in them that I will definitely take into consideration for future projects, but that are not going to have any effect on this one. 2, I let myself react honestly to critiques. I remember that I asked for them if in fact I asked for them. There are cases when people send me critiques that I did not ask for. And I am thankful for the content of those critiques, even if I don't use all of it. I don't know why I'm numbering these. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Most importantly, I remember that not every book is for every reader, that it's totally fine for people not to like my books, and that it is not a criticism of me personally, and a negative reaction or a 1-star review doesn't even mean that a book is horrible. It just means that one person didn't like it, and that's okay. It's kind of a tough balance being a writer, because in some ways you sort of need to be sensitive because you want to be open to the world. You want to be open to experiences and emotions. But you don't want to be so sensitive that you're crying every time somebody leaves a 1-star because they don't like fairies and your book is about fairies. That's just kind of something that's going to happen. No matter what kind of book you write, there's going to be somebody who doesn't like that kind of book. Or maybe they like that kind of book, but they don't like what you did with the story. That's just the way it goes. That's something that I've had to learn to accept, and I've been much happier since I figured that out. So to anonymous person, I think I know who you are, who asked that question. I hope that answers that. I hope it helped. Thank you guys for watching. If you have additional questions on this topic or other topics, feel free to leave the questions in the comments below. You can reach me on Facebook, or through my blog, or my website. I'm pretty easy to find. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.